from Lucy. He's going to do a little demo and walk through the platform. Just as a reminder, you can pop all of your questions in that Q&A chat box, and then we'll get to them at the end of the session. So, Scott, I will go ahead and just hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. Scott Littman, co-founder of Lucy. I started this journey a little over 6 years ago, and really proud of the team we have, the product we've made, the customers we get to provide it to, and excited to share a little bit about how we think about Lucy. And really, we're going to show you the next generation of Lucy today as well. So when we think about this area of insight engines or knowledge management, we like to start with this metaphor of the iceberg, because we want to think about, where does this stuff play? Why do you have it? Why should you need it? And in large enterprises, there's a lot of data. And we use this metaphor of the iceberg to think about, like, if we could see an iceberg, we would know what's above the waterline. We could see it, we could touch it, feel it. But below the waterline is unknown to us. And data, when we think about all that data in the enterprise, it's the same way. If I'm working on a study, a plan, a report that I'm going to deliver to a meeting on Monday, it's known to me. It's like the above the waterline of the iceberg. I don't need any tools like Lucy or anything else to help me get there. I can get there in 2 clicks. I'm fine. But in a large company, all of the data that's available to me that everybody else has worked on, or everything that predecessors have worked on, or that other departments have worked on, or that's coming from our vendors and partners, that's all below the waterline. And unless I already know it, I'm going to have a hard time finding it. And when we work with companies, we're working with millions and millions of pages of content. The amount of unknown to the individual, because every individual kind of has their own iceberg, the amount of unknown is vast. And so that's what we're all about. How do we help people find that information that would otherwise be so hard to find? And we've surveyed, particularly Fortune 1000, some of our customers as they're coming in, as well as prospects, and asked, how do you find that unknown today? And it happens one of 2 ways. Either people search internal repositories like SharePoint or Teams, Office 365, but it also can include other stuff, if companies standardize on G Suite or Box. But Microsoft is pretty dominant in the Fortune 1000, and they search effectively repositories like SharePoint by file name or keyword, and they get a long list of documents back. And if that list of documents is just 25 documents, but more likely 50, 100, or hundreds, how are you going to find that quote, that passage, that stat, that element of that study you're looking for that's on page 63 of just one of those documents? And generally you don't. And so then people go to Teams, and in some companies it might be Zoom or Slack or other messaging platforms, and they phone a friend. They start asking around the organization. I was sharing this with somebody the other day, and they said, "Oh yeah, I sent a message that went to a distribution list of 100 people," which is great. They're casting a wide net, but it creates spam. And if people are busy, they won't notice your request in that feed. And if you're the person who's always so good to respond, or you're the designated subject matter expert, it's highly disruptive. So as the user, you don't know if anybody's going to respond. If you're the right person to respond, you might not see it. If you do respond, you're disrupted. Both these mechanisms are highly inefficient. And so today you're going to meet Lucy, and Lucy's an answer engine. And it's her job to give the right answer to the right person at the right time, regardless of where the data lives in your systems and regardless of the file format that data is in. This quest of looking for information can take hours or days. And for Lucy, she turns that into seconds. So we like to think of Lucy as being kind of a one-stop shop for knowledge, because we've designed Lucy to connect to all of the data that you want to give her permission to in your enterprise. And so in the top left is where data lives. And data lives in SharePoint or Teams or Office 365 or Azure Cloud, or maybe it lives in an enterprise system like SAP or other GitHub, Jira, Salesforce, Confluence. We have connectors for all of this stuff. And then there's a type of data, which tends to be unstructured data, and it's in file format. So the common file formats, PowerPoint, PDF, Word, throw in text files, OneNote, Visio, infographics, wikis, all of that unstructured content that we can read, listen, or watch that lives in those systems. And then, typically in the, particularly Fortune 1000 Research and Insights, we're going to have subscriptions to, great vendors like, eMarketer, Mintel, GWI, Global Data, Zappy, Kantar, and others. And we've created connectors to all of these different environments for partners and syndicated sources, because that's an important form of knowledge too. And we bring that all together through one interface and one ability to ask questions. So with that, one of our favorite things is to say that Lucy exists to amaze, delight, and empower people with knowledge. I'm going to kill that screen, and I need to share a new screen. So give me just 1 second. And we will share there, and we will stretch this out. I will mention that this is Lucy 4. She is in late beta. We are intending to launch her this quarter. We've provided preview access to existing customers. There's still things that are wonky and buggy, but I will hope to avoid that for today. But we're really excited about Lucy 4. Lucy 4 is faster. She's smarter. She is conversational, and she leverages generative AI. And so we're pretty excited about that. Now, as I look at the main screen, and somebody, if our host can just confirm, yep, it looks like you can see everything good. So if I look at the main screen, we have a content management system so that you can publish and promote content. Lucy becomes a bit of a destination within the environments of our customers. You can see here content about events. You can see here content from HR and digital learning. We also have Discover Zone, so I can feature content by sources like by eMarketer or Global Web Index, and an interesting area of discovery so I can see related information to past searches. If I scroll up, I can see in the main search area that it's actually a conversation between myself and Lucy, past questions I've asked and the answers that she has provided. And we'll get into that in a moment. We also can see on the left side here these flyouts that feature recent questions I might have asked, saved answers that I have in the system, or information that's been shared with me by others, and the ability to get notifications so I can see what people are sharing. But let's do the good stuff. Let's start asking Lucy a few questions. So I'm going to ask Lucy, why do people like Greek yogurt? Now, Lucy uses natural language processing and natural language understanding. It's her job to understand the intent of the question, to understand the utterances of the user, and then apply it against everything that she has read, listened, watched, and learned. And here I can see that my particular Lucy is, and I'll zoom in here, my Lucy's connected to some HR sources like Sherman LinkedIn Learnings. My Lucy's connected to about a dozen different SharePoints that are the internal data inside of my company. We can see some subscriptions like eMarketer, GWI, Euromonitor, and we can see some tools I'm connected to like Tableau, Salesforce, and Knowledge Hound. So Lucy is asking all of those sources, and then she's providing answers that are based on her confidence that she has found the right answer. Now, this very top answer, and I can see that there's this check mark in it, which says this is a verified answer, is actually one that's been vetted and reviewed by others who have gone so far as to say this just is the answer. only a small portion of answers end up being verified, but for most frequent or common questions where maybe subject matter experts want to say, look, I don't want to have people ask me this stuff anymore. But verified in Lucy, they'll ask Lucy, it's all good. That ends up being very helpful. And to the user, it's a great way to know that not only is it Lucy giving her best answer, but it's actually been verified by one of the experts in the company. But this answer, we always say that Lucy's an answer engine. This answer comes down to the page level, and Lucy's saying page 7 is a really good answer or a top answer. Now she's got other answers, and I can go through those as well. Let's ask Lucy something else, though. Let's ask Lucy, how is inflation impacting shopping behavior? Now, that question on Greek yogurt, the source was SharePoint. It was internal data. And if I think about for our companies or our customers that we work with, that internal data is the most important to mine, and it's the hardest to mine, and it's where people really struggle. And so a huge portion of the use case for Lucy is how do I find all of the past work we've ever done, everything that's in our systems, all the data that goes dark. But many of our customers also have really great relationships with partners like an eMarketer by Insider Intelligence or the Mintels and Euromonitors and GWIs and all of that, that are providing really good data. And we want to be able to ask at the same time questions of those systems. And so I asked about how is inflation impacting shopping behavior. And I've got, well, you can see there's just a lot of content, particularly coming from eMarketer here. And so, but I see that very first answer, back to school. And, that's so 6 months ago. So why don't I can add a filter. I'm just going to say, what? I only want answers from the last 90 days. Let's get it really current with it. And, Lucy is now providing really good answers from that kind of last 90-day window. I can kind of bounce through these and see different articles from eMarketer that are answering this. It's good stuff. Now, one of the things that I might think is, the customer I'm working with, they're in the UK. And so one of the things I can do is Lucy tags every piece of content. Every page is tagged for brands, locations, themes, and topics. And so, for example, when I open up this filter, and it gives me an option to narrow this down to the UK. So now I'm asking, how is inflation impacting shopping behavior just from the last 90 days as far as sources, and now in the UK, and I'll hit apply. The only reason UK shows up is because some of my content has been tagged around UK. If there was no content about UK, it wouldn't show up as a filter. It'd be like going to Amazon and shopping for a flat screen, and you'd see Samsung as one of your potential filters because they have inventory for Samsung. It's really powerful, this auto tagging, because every page is tagged. An army of humans couldn't do this, but Lucy does it as she reads, listens, watches, and learns your content. And she creates those tags. And as a result, I can see these answers are very, this about the British Retail Consortium. If I go to the next answer, we can see all these things are very focused on the UK market. And so Lucy's helping us find the needle, or in this case, the many needles in our haystack. And if I look at this and I think, I want to let one of my colleagues know, this is what we were looking for in the meeting this morning. And, I can add this comment. It'll show up in my colleague's feed. If I want, I can save this for later, and this will go to to my save list. I can share this with a colleague, and it'll go into their share list. And so the next generation of Lucy is making her far more collaborative. And then one of the things that Lucy does, which is really cool, is she puts all data on a level playing field. And so whether the data is coming from internal sources, whether it's external, whether it's PowerPoint, PDF, or Word, whether it's a video. And so I'm going to ask Lucy, are people more likely to use coupons available through social media. And interestingly, I have the filters on for UK and date. Oh, there we go. Cool. I want to make sure I didn't leave those filters on. And so in this case, my source is a video. And hopefully the audio plays through this channel, but let's go.
Do you guys think it's helpful to have coupons through social media outlets more than like paper or in the mail or anything like that? Do you guys feel like that's a driving factor for you to use it? If it's on your social media app, you're more likely to use it?
So we always talk about how Lucy's an answer engine, and it's her job to find the answer, and whether that's down to being on page 10 of a document, or in this case the right frame or clip of an audio or video. And hopefully you heard the audio, and at the very least you saw, and you can see here, I mean, this is a hour and 7-minute focus group, and Lucy went to about the 13-minute and 10-second mark before I started playing. And so that ends up being a very powerful component to not just say, here's a list of videos, but to go to the right part of the video where the answer is. So that is what I wanted to show you today. So I think from there, we can open it up to questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. That was great. Yeah, we have a few minutes for questions here, so feel free to keep putting those in the Q&A box. I'll start off with a couple of questions from Tim. Nice to see a familiar face in the chat. So he's a kind of a two-part question here. So part one, he said, you mentioned Microsoft 365. Can Lucy look through Teams, the files, tabs, SharePoint lists, OneNote, etc.? And then second part of that question, he said, for many teams, we have meeting recordings that have their transcripts in the Teams meeting. Does or can Lucy look into transcripts for themes and topics?
Yes and yes. So the first thing is Teams we are connected to thousands of different Teams repositories for various customers. Teams is effectively, from a file storage standpoint, is effectively SharePoint. Microsoft's using the same technology to support both. And we natively integrate to SharePoint. We natively integrate to Teams. We natively integrate to OneDrive for Business. We natively integrate to Office 365, Azure Cloud, all of that. So we are reading a tremendous amount of content that comes off of Teams in the form of the files that are stored in Teams. There is a separate item, which is the chat discussions themselves. And I'm going to kill this share for 1 second because we're sharing just tabs. Give me one moment. I want to show you something that is really cool. So one of the things is how we integrate to the conversations that are happening. And let me just move a tab over here and I'll share it. Sorry for that brief delay, but this is cool stuff. So I mentioned at the very beginning that there's two ways that people interact to find answers. One is that they search, typically through something like SharePoint or Teams, or number two is they go for human intelligence and they ask a friend. So I'm going to share a tab, and this is, there we go. This is my Teams. And I also made a comment that Lucy's using generative AI. And so if I look at the questions here that I'm asking in Teams, how long does it take an employee to find the information they need? Lucy in my Teams is saying 87% of the people we asked said that it was taking them hours or days to find the information they needed. This came from a webinar we did with PepsiCo about 3 months ago with their HR team. And if I hit see more on Lucy, we will go to that. And so we integrate with Teams pretty heavily from a standpoint of, yes, we can mine the data. But the other thing is we enter the conversation, and hopefully the tab sharing thing works okay here. Because I can look at a conversation. Where's one that I can use? Of all these. Here we go. Because here you can see that a colleague of mine, Jacqueline, is simply in Teams messaging Lucy, as well as a colleague of hers, Joe. And then the generative AI answer, which we call Lucy synopsis, which does not come from a document, it comes from her understanding of the various documents, videos, and sources, is provided back. And then we say, if you want more, see more in Lucy. Because if people are already asking people through Teams or Slack or other messaging platforms for help and how to get answers, then just at Lucy, and she can join that conversation, which also makes her mobile, and also mobile in one of the apps that people tend to use. So we're really big on the whole integration to Teams, both to be able to mine the data, but also enter the conversation.
– Wow, that's really cool. Thanks for showing that. Definitely worth
Yep.
the demo.
Yeah, actually, if I can even add, I saw an announcement from somebody saying we're going to be the first in the industry to have generative AI. We'll be coming up with it in a quarter or two. Watch for more. And we had generative AI in Q4 last year, and it's part of the core application today. Not a coming soon. It's just there.
Wow, that's cool. Tim said this might be too geeky, but is it available for 365 that is GCC high?
So we certainly work with Office 365, but the last bit of that,
I also didn't understand it. So GCC high is what he was asking.
I'll say we integrate with Office 365, but feel free to follow up with us and we can talk more specifically about your data integration and make sure that we're right for it.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, another question here from Bruno. He says, is Lucy connected to data sources / repositories with information on the South African market?
Lucy is connected to whatever data repositories you own or license, and very permission-based. And when I say that, the whole security model of Lucy is really important. We recognize that not all data is for all people. And so you can control exactly which of your sources are connected to Lucy and to what extent they're connected. And then we can control from Lucy which users have access to which data from which sources as well. So if the sources are from South Africa, from Asia Pacific Rim, if they're in UK, if they're in EU, if they're in US, it's all good. We have currently about 55 to 60% of our users are outside of the US. So we very much operate with multinationals and on a global basis.
Great, thank you. I'm sure this is a very timely question that you're probably getting a lot these days, but is Lucy leveraging Chat GPT at all?
So when I say that we're using generative AI, there are two things that make Chat GPT fascinating. One is the generative AI, that it is able to, based on its corpus of knowledge, generate really intelligent responses. And we are doing that element of it. The other part that makes Chat GPT so interesting, and for the moment unique, although we will be we will be, there are recent announcements that they'll be licensing some of this, so we will be incorporating this. The thing that makes ChatGPT so cool is not only the generative AI, which, and we're using very similar level of technology to create the answers, but in our case, they're coming from the corpus of knowledge that a customer owns or licenses versus ChatGPT is Wikipedia and other common sources. The other element that makes ChatGPT so cool, which is not available yet, is the ability to hold the state of a conversation. If I say, what are sales trends, if I think of a car company, what are sales trends for Tesla? And then, in ChatGPT, if connected to that Tesla data, would provide an answer. Then you say, but what about the US? And it would remember that the last question was about Tesla sales. And so it would then follow through on Tesla sales in the US. So that is a future thing that we'll see in Lucy. At the moment, we are doing very similarly the generative side of how we're answering, but answering uniquely from the content you own and license.
And with that content that you own and license, what is the training process like for Lucy, when you're providing that database for her to draw from?
Yeah, that's evolved for us a ton. I mean, in the early days, it took a lot of work, but we're in the 4th generation of our platform. and the advances both in our AI and our machine learning, we get to the point where from a general purpose standpoint, the typical time to stand up a Lucy is about 4 to 6 weeks for connection to data, indexing of data, going through QA, doing initial review, and being ready. Now, from that point forward, we don't expect customers to go through any kind of lengthy training exercises. It's not necessary. But we do go through regular usage getting feedback. And the AI goes from good to very good to great fairly quickly from that initial indexing period. The more data we index and the more questions that are asked and the more feedback that's provided, the faster we learn. The other thing is that every customer has unique glossaries of acronyms, brand names, synonyms, jargon, things like that that are unique to them. And one of the things we pick up is we realize in the question history, oh, we didn't have that acronym, we didn't have that jargon, and we're constantly enhancing the glossaries of our customers' instances of Lucy, so they're becoming smarter and smarter through evolution and use. But we do not have an extensive training time that's a burden to the user at all. We have a user acceptance testing window where we want to see a customer ask 30, 50 questions over a couple weeks, from multiple people. But that's about it.
Great. Thank you. We're right about the end here, so I'll just ask this last question. How do you monitor the correct answers being shared with users if, tagging is incorrect or if there's misinformation uploaded?
Yeah, so we kind of get the benefit of the wisdom of the crowds. Same thing that you see with Netflix ratings or Amazon star system. People are providing feedback, and one person's favorite answer might not be somebody else's. And so as users are providing feedback into the system's constantly rescoring and adjusting its understanding of the content based on that feedback. But no one person is going to diminish quality content. Just like one upvote alone is not strong enough to change the understanding of the system. But we are constantly collecting, and again, more questions that people ask and the more feedback we get, the more that Lucy goes from being really good just on her own experience and knowledge to being great for that specific customer.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Scott, and everybody for joining today. It was really helpful demo and hopefully answered all the questions we got. So I will wrap up, but everybody have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you bringing us on.
Yeah. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.